Welcome, and today I want to explore some ancient civilizations in America on Google Earth. Now, here we're going to look at a little New Mexico, and this was suggested to me in a comment, and I want to thank you for sharing this with me. So, I've not really explored New Mexico that much, and wow, right away, right away, we find this amazing, amazing neighborhood. And this one is completely untouched. Let's take off the roads here. Okay, now we can see it for what it is. And if they would have highlighted all the roads, it would have just seemed crazy. But this is a really amazing neighborhood. This is huge. I mean, look at the current neighborhood. Rio Communities. And look at this old massiveness. And whatever it was, I won't say that these were neighborhoods, although we turn them into neighborhoods because they're laid out just perfectly. But I won't say that they were neighborhoods. Sometimes they look just too circuit board-like. But this thing is massive. And again, one day they will make these into neighborhoods. And yeah, this thing just goes on and on and on. I mean, right up to the edge of this mountain. So I'm not sure how far it extends. I mean, maybe all of New Mexico and maybe all of the earth is covered in such things. I mean, this is remarkable. When you see it on mountains though, I mean, who can do this? This is just fascinating. I don't think I've ever seen them on mountains, actually. This is absolutely amazing. You know, when you can just cross any kind of terrain and, you know, you continue with your pattern. You don't care if there's a ravine or a canyon. Look how beautiful. Look at these lines. I mean, these are just gorgeous. They even appear to be paved, but they're not. They're just whatever created this. It's not going to let me look down here, of course, because it's not a road. So now let's have a look at another little place I saw over here. This was really interesting. You know, this doesn't look like circuitry, and nor does it look like roads, but it looks completely artificial. And here it looks like there's a town. You know, they probably availed themselves of all these lines, which is usually what happens. But yeah, they're right in the center of all these ancient lines. Everything intersects here. Look at these little dots. Just really interesting, you know. Everything looks so perfectly spaced, all these bushes, as if, as if they've been placed here strategically. And that's the thing, is everything looks strategic. You just zero in on any spot here around Albuquerque, and then I found this spot up here. Look at that. I mean, absolutely amazing. Let's try to look at it from head on if we can. I mean, that's just too perfect. And once again, these lines are running through, you know, canyon after canyon. And of course, people avail themselves of these. Why wouldn't they? And you see that same discoloration in the vegetation. But really interesting. I mean, this is almost like a Peruvian line. Very Nazca. And real quick, if you're not familiar with the Nazca lines of Peru, they're these lines that can be seen from the air and really almost unrecognizable from the ground, but from the air. And of course, we have them in, all parts of the world. But what's special about the ones in Peru is that they have these beautiful animals and spiders and, just artistic depictions. Here you see a hummingbird. And then, of course, these lines that we're looking at right now in North America. But in Peru, they're absolutely fascinating. Here you can see where my pointer is, that they're just cutting through, canyons, and it's just fascinating. Really, really fascinating. And one ancient one would have to have access to the air to create such artistic depictions so perfectly. And some of them are miles and miles and miles in length. And even just right at a quick glance here, yeah, we have more over here. And again, more. But these are much older. Much, much older. And very shortly here, I'm going to show you a little trip that I did. And I actually go walking down one of these lines on the Utah-Colorado border. This is very, very red here. Very anomalous. So we have mining. And also what's interesting is, just as a quick study in mining, look here how we see this pattern in mining, and we also see this on mountain tops and places where there are no mining, and we see it on a massive scale. And it's exactly the same thing. It's like a little crescent, and then you'll have another little crescent next to it, and another little crescent. And just to depict this mining activity, I'll use as an example the Uinta Mountains in my backyard, but all mountains will depict this, especially in the Rockies. And you can see here what I'm talking about. All mining activity. All of this is mining. Let's zoom out a little. I mean, it's not hard to spot it. Everywhere. Mining. And even in modern times, always little water ponds are formed in conjunction with mining. Here again, I mean, all of this, everything you see, this has been mined, and what we think are pristine lakes, they are just signs of quarry activity. And we can pop over here to the Rockies in Colorado, and we can see the same thing. Very easy to spot from the air. But this is serious compared to what we were just looking at. This is on a massive, massive scale. Something unimaginable to us. Now, real quick here, I just wanted to jump over here to the sea, and this really anomalous pattern right off of the coast of California. But that's not what I want to focus on. It was just on the way. What I wanted to focus on are what I am considering to be artificial coastlines. And really, really fascinating. You see, here's an example. Here is this little town, couple little towns here, and this amazing sandbar. What a wonderful thing to protect these communities. But now, who built the sandbars? When were the sandbars built? I'm sure there's a very interesting story, and we would get a nice story, and we might even believe the story because it's right next to this town. Pretty substantial, it seems, and here as well. But now what I want to do is go and find some of these sandbars in places where there are no towns or people, and it would be very difficult to justify building a sandbar in a remote area. So, we could go up here, and they're everywhere, but, we could go to Alaska. But even that would be, justifiable. So let's go look to the very, very, very north of Alaska, and let's see what we have up here. So here's an example. Artificial sandbar. And what was this? This is not natural. And now, it really seems like that is not the right color. I think that this has been smudged. And in fact, I think it's sitting on something much more ancient, like we were looking at the beginning of the video at New Mexico. This is an ancient footprint. Here is more raking of the earth. And now, this could be an Eskimo community. I'm going to imagine that it is, but it is sitting on an older footprint. And especially this sandbar. This sandbar is a feat of engineering. And, the amount of money it would take to create just this little piece of sandbar for this little town. The sandbar is, the expenses involved in building such a sandbar would outweigh this little community. So this is clearly something much older. And again, I think where we had ancient civilizations, we now see swamps. And, a lot of destruction. But what is left is this artificial coastline. Now look at it. Look how it continues. Look at this. Just absolutely amazing. Again, this is the northern tip of America, the northern tip of Alaska. Now again, that's why I wanted to show you one in California, because, if there's a city next to it, we could say that's justifiable. But when there is no civilization in sight, and we see these artificial sandbars, beautiful, beautiful engineering. All down the coastline of America. But up here, it makes no sense. And it really makes no sense anywhere, but, we would get an interesting story, but not here. Not here. And so, yeah, here's the coordinates, and, you really don't need the coordinates. It's just the northern tip of Alaska. And it's very pointy, very starforty, in fact. And any part, if Google allows us. Actually, the last time I looked at this, and it could be my internet loading slowly, but the last time I looked at this, I was able to see a lot more, and now it seems to be blurred out. But everywhere. Artificial. Who built these coastlines? And you can absolutely see a devastation. I mean, to me it's pretty clear. Major blast sites, similar projectile angles, and we can see the same thing in northern Russia, and we see the ancient lines as well. But this would explain a lot. I mean, this would explain the artificial coastlines. And I'm sure if I was patient it would load better, but just look here. I mean, just even what Google is letting us see. And every day it's less and less. But, yeah. Look at this. Look how it changes as I... Look at that. You don't see it? And then more appears. That's another story. I want to stay focused on the artificial coastline, but that is really interesting. There's a lot of anomalous things going on here. Really, really interesting. Next, I'm going to show you a little trip that I took to personally explore one of these ancient lines. This particular line is located on the border of Utah and Colorado. So let me jump now to where I went today. And I was really looking for a place just right off the side of the road with what I felt was an ancient line. And I don't know if this is the best one, but it was the one that was easiest for me. And you can see there's a little parking lot, so I parked on this parking lot, and this is exactly the border of Utah and Colorado in the middle of nowhere. In fact, let's see if they let us put the man here. They should. Alright, the man. So here we go. I mean, here's where I was. And I have some footage. I'll show you some actual footage in a minute here. But yeah, you're pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And this is a little place where, you know, trucks might pull over. The only people you see out here are, you know, oil trucks, and, you know, a lot of oil activities go on out here. But in any case, I parked there and I walked across the street, and basically that ancient remnants of the road, or whatever it is right here. And I could barely even tell that I was there, except what I did see is, you know, oil pipeline, or, you know, some kind of signage that was running, beginning at this point and running east. And then when I, you know, look this way, the pipeline, there was no signage for the pipeline. None whatsoever. So that, I told myself, well, I'll go back on Google when I get home, as I am now, and I'll see if that road continues. Then it was not the pipeline, because the pipeline did not continue past here. So in any case, it was really interesting. And now that I'm here, looking at it from above, I also noticed something different that I wish I would have looked at when I was there. And you have these what look like tracks, like railroad tracks running across that I showed in another video that we had kind of near the Salt Lake, and even in Nevada we've seen things like this. So the track runs this way at a 45, this way at an opposite 45, and it just runs and runs. So that is really interesting. I mean, that would have nothing to do with a pipeline. This is clearly the remnants of an ancient road, and now this really makes it obvious that we have these lines running horizontally across the main track. And then it appears that the track jumps to this side of the road. And really, if you look carefully, I mean, the whole road itself lays on this type of line. Now here I've gotten to my destination, and we can see this ancient line, and it runs east and west. And I did immediately notice these oil pipeline markers, but they do not seem to be on the ancient road. They're right on the edge of it, as you can see here. Right on the edge, and they put one on each side indicating where they've buried this gas or oil pipeline. And it almost appears as if, you know, the whole thing is kind of a ruse. It's much wider than it would need to be. I mean, if heavy equipment or excavators came in, I don't think it would be that perfect. And furthermore, I'll turn the camera around here shortly and show you that these pipelines, or at least the signs for the pipelines, end right here. So you see right there, those two, that's it. And you can also see that the road continues west here. And yet the pipeline signs end. These were the last two. So, you know, if this was an old buried pipeline and the remnants of heavy machinery cutting through a path, we would have more pipeline signs that would continue, but they don't. And, you know, the first thing I did when I got home was just double check to see if this ancient line or this ancient road or whatever it is continues, and sure enough it did. It continued straight as could be past this point. And also the train track things that I was telling you about, well, here's one right here below me on the bottom left corner of the screen. I didn't realize I was pretty much standing on one. So whatever these train tracky things are that we can see from Google, well, here's what they look like on the ground. Just a mound, pretty much. Just a 45-degree angled mound, no more than 2 feet high. And that also wouldn't make sense with a buried pipeline. I mean, why would you just have these, you know, the pipeline is going to run with the line, not against the line. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a blessed day, and please like, comment, and subscribe.